Hi guys, welcome to Antique Sprinklers. Today we're going to be talking about a double rotary sprinkler, the Model H. And in order to talk about that sprinkler, we need to talk about another legend of irrigation, whom you might never have heard of before. This is a fellow named Lou Holland. And Lou is a guy who put Kansas City on a map. He knew the Harry S. Truman. No, not the Harry S. Truman. He knew Harry S. Truman, the president, very well from his days before being a president in local politics in Kansas City and on through when he was in the Senate and then later as president. So how that came to be is sort of the story of his background. Lou was born in Parma, New York, June 20th, 1878. Around 1902, he came to Kansas City with his wife. They had some children shortly thereafter. And he got into the engraving business and did very well. And as near as I can tell, that guy was always working. And, he became involved in just about every civic organization you possibly could. He was very interested in aviation and was the driving factor for the old Kansas City airport. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's kind of on a point there along the river. For having that actually located in downtown Kansas City pretty much, or close to downtown. And in fact, there's still Lou Holland Drive there in Kansas City around the airport. And he did a number of other things as well. He was big into advertising and ran sort of this international organization of advertisers. And it was through that he got to travel the world. His obituary said that he traveled something like 150,000 miles in his life, which, before the real advent of commercial aviation was quite a feet. He was hosted by the King and Queen of England and became the president of the American Automobile Association too. And so how did he get into sprinklers is a fair question out of all that. He saw an emerging market in golf courses and in 1923 applied for a patent for a rotary sprinkler that could be used on golf greens. And that's how I actually became aware of the sprinkler. It was through looking at old ads in golf course maintenance magazines from the 20s through the 1960s. And so, May 26th, 1925, he was awarded the patent for this double rotary sprinkler. And, it's funny, every single ad you ever see for one of these things for sale plops that date right out there as though it might be the date the sprinkler, that you're bidding on dates to. It's very unlikely that that's the case. They made these sprinklers for several decades, certainly into the 1960s, without changing their design a bit, and maybe later on they lightened up on the cast iron base. This thing weighs a ton. But basically they were unchanged, and they kept that date right on there as its patent date. So the way this sprinkler works is very straightforward. And it's meant to put out a diameter of water about 100 feet. And there's a smaller size that doesn't include this range nozzle. This piece up here is just sealed off. And it's meant to cover, say, an 80-foot diameter circle. And how it works is the inner nozzle, and I'll show you with better pictures, sends a jet of water into this gear. And this gear turns, and I don't know if you can pick up on that, but the spinning of that gear is what rotates the rest of the sprinkler. And inside, there are a couple of gears where that power is, it transitions into a rotation in this direction. And that's basically it, other than this inner nozzle covers a decent radius right around the sprinkler itself, and then this range nozzle is what provides, the remainder of the distance of the arc of the sprinkler. And this guy's untouched. Like I said, I can't really zero in on how old it is. It's somewhere between, 1925. By the way, the company was founded after he got the patent approved, which I guess maybe he thought was just prudent. And so the company, the Double Rotary Sprinkler Company, dates to 1925. And I assume sometime shortly after his death in 1960, it went out of business. They never made these things themselves. There was a company, P.F. Reese, I think was the name of it, that did manufacturing in Kansas City. And it was a small company, it was about 4 people, but they still managed to put out about 4,000 of these things, and in total with the other model that they had a year, which is no small feat. I'm told they were sold on 4 continents. They were very popular, and they created the smaller model so that they could get into the home lawn business. A lot of times you'll see an irrigation company start in sort of that residential market and then eventually build to where they're making golf course stuff. But it's the opposite with Double Rotary. They wanted to go after the greenskeeper who needed to water a nice big, mostly circular green effectively, and so that's what they did. And this guy worked great. This particular example, I was very thrilled when I got it. I'm not going to take it apart or anything. Something like this with gears inside and gaskets that have been probably in place at a minimum 70 years, say. If it's working, I'll leave it completely alone. I'd just as soon not have to cheat and use things like liquid gasket and stuff like that on it. You can see there's a spot where you grease it up. That's for the gearbox in here. And otherwise, there's not too much to do. But it's really a pleasure to watch operate. Dayton made a similar model, and I think some other companies sort of copied this design a little bit or integrated it in their sprinkler line. But this is the famous one, the double rotary. And again, as you can see, I get that wheel spinning, and the sprinkler starts to rotate. So there's not a whole lot else to say about Lou Holland or the double rotary sprinkler. I don't know if in irrigation lore he comes up to the level of a William Buckner or a Clement LaFetra, but in terms of accomplishment in life in general, he kind of surpasses everybody. He met heads of state all over the world, was a guest in the Oval Office during Truman's administration, was big on bringing projects from the federal government back to the Midwest, and during the war even headed a group of small manufacturers that ended up with a total of something like $844 million in war contracts, and so you're talking about the 1940s, so that would be billions and billions of dollars today. So a very, very effective promoter of Kansas City and its environs. That's about all I have to say about this sprinkler and about Lou Holland. I'm happy, as always, to bring maybe a forgotten name in irrigation back up in front of folks. And with that, I'm going to get out of the way and let you watch this guy in action, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks.